went on to season 5, obviously we had to get a new— oh my god, what the is that? I remember being a kid and being so hyped for this event. Basically a full-fledged Justice League movie. Dude, that is some costume design. Who came up with this? Like, that episode almost had me crying. Well, I'm sad. I just finished binging the second half of the final Superman Lois season and damn, that's it. The Arrowverse is gone for good. I'll do a little coverage on Superman Lois season 4 at the end of this video, and I'll talk about the crossovers like I promised last time. But first, I think it's time we really marinate our nostalgia, starting with The Flash. I think every comic type nerd was into this show at one point or another. And for good reason too. The first 2 seasons was such a good mix of sci-fi, drama, action, and mystery. It's no wonder I had non-nerd friends talking about the show and theorizing who the reverse Flash is and everything. When I talk about the first 2 seasons of The Flash, holy shit, you just had to be there. The theories and discussions, dude, I really can't think of any show that got that amount of detective work since peak Game of Thrones. I mean, if you were there, I bet you remember the complete confusion that everyone had when they revealed who Zoom turned out to be. The acting was great, they paced out a 23 episode season pretty well, which nowadays sounds insane. A 23 episode season, what the fuck? But then, things started to wobble a little bit. So after season 3, people were like, are we ever gonna get a non-speedster villain whose identity we don't have to obsess over? So they were like, I bet, let's bring in the Thinker. Now the Thinker, he was an alright villain. I don't really remember what his final plan was, but Flash had a really sick costume that season. I'm sure I'm not alone in that opinion because seriously, that costume looks so fucking hard. And it was a natural improvement over the previous costume, you know, we got some familiar elements. So when we went on to season 5, obviously we had to get a new— oh my god, what the fuck is that? Seriously, how did this happen? I get that the chin strap isn't the norm in the comics and that Grant Gustin is a good looking dude, but fucking nothing can save that tomato cranium. From this point on, I want to acknowledge that my memory of these episodes might be all over the place because, to be honest, at this point the show started feeling more like a chore. But like all chores and jobs, there are usually some moments of brightness. We had that season 4 episode called Flash Time where Flash spends the entire episode in super speed to save Central City from being blown up. Grant Gustin is always acting his ass off, by the way, especially in that episode, but just the entire show, he was carrying that shit. We had the Bloodwork story arc, which was actually a pretty good non-speedster villain. And then we had yeah, that's all I can really think of. Wait, hold on. We did have an insane costume improvement by changing out the cowl alone. My god, that is a beautiful Flash costume. But let's dive into the ugliness, shall we? Where do I even begin? Tell me, where? Where? Well, first, let's talk about the cast. Cisco leaves, Wally leaves, Jesse leaves, eventually Joey leaves, and I'm pretty sure they stopped the whole Wells gag. And that opened up the floodgates to introduce a bunch of side characters that made me want to swim in a pool of bees. Allegra, she has light powers, sick. What else? Nothing. Actually, you know what? They did try coupling her with Cisco minus 2.0. I can't lie, every time Chester was on screen, I just wanted to saw my balls off. And when they tried making them a thing, oh my god, atrocious. The only chemistry that was there was a knife and my 2 eyes. I can't forget about Cecile though, because there is no medium of communication that can express my distaste for what this character eventually became. Don't ask me how she went from the occasional DA that pops up in the police department to a fucking telepath with telekinesis that's there to tell the audience what characters are feeling. Like, wow, great writing. Without her, I wouldn't have known Caitlin was feeling sad. Thank you. And we have to talk about Ralph Dibny, aka Elongated Man. A welcome addition to the team, but the actor gets fired because some dark humor tweets were dug up from 10 years ago. Obviously, I don't know the guy, he could be a real piece of shit in real life, but this was kind of ridiculous. And it's so funny because his story in the show was all about forgiveness and how you can change from your past actions and how you can be a better person. The irony is hilarious. They had the guts to bring his character back every time but with a different facial disfigurement. Like, dude, just stop, okay? Alright, let's talk about the villains in this period of the show. So after the Thinker, we had Cicada or Cicada or whatever, and he was just, he was no good.
Every matter will die.
No clue what kind of direction they were giving the actor, and no clue how the Flash didn't just knock him out within the first 10 seconds of meeting him. It's so funny because Cicada would just bounce away from every fight in every goddamn episode. And for some reason, they thought it would be a great idea to introduce Cicada too. Bitch, I don't even like Cicada 1! And one of the worst goddamn parts of this season was when they were talking about superpower consent. I'm not sure whose idea it was to try and make superpower consent some sort of powerful allegory, but it fucking failed. If you don't remember, it's about the team fighting amongst themselves about whether they should be allowed to take away a criminal's power. You're telling me we're gonna argue about taking away someone's meta-human powers even after they've committed crimes and hurt people? No, okay? You take away the powers and you make sure they never get to touch that shit again. They had their chance. They brought on Mirror Monarch, who was a female version of Mirror Master. I don't really care about the gender swap thing because we already had a Mirror Master earlier in the show, but she took way too long to be beaten. Like that whole, oh, someone's stuck in the mirror dimension and we have to get them out. That whole situation just dragged on for way too long. Then we had the Speed Force as the villain. Now, if you didn't watch the show to this point, you might be asking yourself, how could the Speed Force be a villain? That's a question I find asking myself, you know? The Speed Force was calling Barry dad while in the form of his dead mother. Oh my god, it was just so weird because all the forces were his children. Who came up with this? I don't care if it made sense in the story, okay? They didn't have to write this in the first place. I hate to admit it, but this is where I kind of dropped off the show. I kind of missed the whole Godspeed thing, but looking at the clips, it seems like I didn't really miss much. But good thing I tuned in for the final season for Red Death and Cobalt Blue. I'm pretty sure the only reason they brought in Red Death is because they made a reference in an earlier season like, oh my god, Red Death, they kill so many people in the future, what?
But Cicada killed more people than Zoom, or even the Red Death.
But in the show, Red Death only kills like 2 people or something. I know a lot of people had an issue with it being Batwoman instead of Bruce Wayne. I didn't mind it. I think Oliver Queen worked better since he was kind of the Batman of the Arrowverse. But again, the main issue was the writing and direction. Same with Cobalt Blue. They just took a fan theory from the season 1 era and they're like, fuck it, Eddie is Cobalt Blue for some reason. Overall, the Flash is like that one kid who you grew up really close with, but as you grew apart and they just changed to a different person and you realize that they were kind of becoming a weirdo and you just didn't want to hang out with them anymore. I wish I could say that ended strong like Arrow and Superman and Lois, but it did not. It will always have a special place in my heart though. I have a lot of great memories with The Flash, okay? Don't get it twisted. However, a show that I wasn't completely fond of that also had some issues going on with the production is Batwoman.
Look who's comfortable now.
I'm not gonna talk too much about the show, but it was tumultuous. I remember season 1 being not that bad, apart from that one line from the trailer.
The suit is literal perfection.
It will be, when it fits a woman.
Then Ruby Rose left. Some say it's because of that dangerous injury that she experienced, and others say that it's because she couldn't cop the 23 episodes a year workload. But either way, I think I stopped watching around midway season 2. It was just so funny how they just killed off Kate Kane off screen and they just showed her costume just washing up on shore. But I think they brought the character back with a different actress later. I think. It's always weird seeing DC doing Batman stuff without Batman. Honestly, I legit remember nothing from the show. Luke Fox was a character, Batwing, that was something. I also saw a photo of Hush while researching for this video, and I had no recollection of him being part of the show. And that was part of the show that I did watch. Like, if you put a gun to my head and asked me which DC property is this live action Hush from, I would just see my life flash before my eyes. They eventually introduced the Poison Ivy and they made a legacy Poison Ivy. I don't know, man. Let's move on. All right, before we talk about the crossovers, we have to talk about Supergirl. I saw the first 5 seasons of the show, even though season 6 was the final season. I don't know, I just got really busy with life or something. Season 1 was definitely not there, quality-wise. I remember it got started on CBS, then eventually got moved to CW to join all the other DC shows. And listen, I understand that Supergirl is the main character of the show, but to make Superman outright say that she's stronger than him...
No, I was at full strength and you beat me.
What are we doing here? I'm not gonna get into nerd shit about why that writing sucked, but I just wanted everyone to know that I thought that writing sucked. Season 3 was definitely the best though, you know? Like, it actually made me want to tune in every week. It helps we had Starkiller / Darth Maul as one of the villains. We also had Martian Manhunter in the show. He didn't have the best CGI, but listen, that costume, it popped off. He was originally meant to be Hank Henshaw Cyborg Superman, but we didn't really talk about how they handled Cyborg Superman. Like, imagine if they tried doing a Cyborg Superman story with him. Fear not, I am Superman. Yes, I am alive. I am the real deal. Yes, it's me. Superman's white. And? You're black. Ah! We also had John Cryer Lex Luthor. He was a very comic booky Lex Luthor compared to the one we got in Superman and Lois, which I'm sure a lot of people appreciated. Lena Luthor, Lex's sister, was also part of the main cast, and I just remember being really weirded out by people shipping her and Kara together. I think the ship name was Luthor Corp, and it got so bad that these fucking idiots started harassing the actors, and it just got out of control. Also, Jimmy Olsen, James Olsen. Come on, what are we doing here? That's not Jimmy, bro. That's not Jimmy. Alright, let's do it. Let's let's revisit every Arrowverse major crossover event because everyone knows that these were fire.
Nice try.
You shot me?
I heard you heal fast.
I remember being a kid and being so hyped for this event. Obviously, we had already seen Barry introduced to Arrow Season 2, but this was the first time we saw them together as Flash and Arrow. And I know it doesn't make much sense that Oliver lasted more than 10 seconds within that fight, but still, I didn't care. It was cool. They also adapted Rainbow Raider pretty decently for the Arrowverse. I'm sure if they didn't, Legends of Tomorrow would have done something zany with him eventually. And the second half of the crossover involved them taking on Captain Boomerang. Classic Flash villain who should probably be a Green Arrow villain, so you know, it works out. Although, they did make the heinous crime of making him not Australian, which is absolutely absurd. It's literally one of his defining features. Boomerangs, Australian, what's up? It was also just really fun to see the two teams interact with each other since both shows were still so young at this point. So you got the OGs of each team working with each other. Oh man, simpler times, simpler times. And it also led to Barry and Oliver and Firestorm fighting Reverse Flash. That was also pretty cool. This might be the most forgettable one, I'm sorry. It's probably because it was just a backdoor pilot for Legends of Tomorrow, or it was because people just didn't give a shit about the Hawk people. The Vandal Savage was just so slimy and incel as well, which if you compare that to the Young Justice version, there was no justice being done here. Highlight of this crossover might be when everyone fucking dies. And then Flash time travels back and tells everyone how not to fuck up. And one of those things was that Oliver Queen should not tell Felicity that he's a baby daddy because that somehow leads to everyone's death. Hey man, I get it. I wouldn't be in the right mindset either to fight an immortal wizard if I had to deal with Season 4 Felicity either.
How did you do that?
I'm Supergirl.
You're who now?
This was when Flash met Supergirl for the first time because he was going so fast that he went to a different Earth. Listen man, I would also be willing to travel to a whole nother Earth to meet Melissa Benoist's Supergirl, okay? I'm just saying, I'm just saying. Not only did he cross over shows, but he also crossed over TV channels from CW to CBS. I'm Australian, I don't know what the fuck these words mean. This crossover is also where that meme comes from of that clip of that behind the scenes footage. Then from that clip, people will be commenting, see, these DC CW shows are trash, bro, while they use their hairy balls as a scratch and sniff. Like, sorry she didn't actually fly out of frame, the fuck? Anyway, this was a cute little crossover and I was low-key shipping Barry and Kara. Is that weird? Was that just me? I don't know. It's probably that Glee chemistry.
Barry, I'm not letting you leave.
No offense, Oliver, but you in what army?
This one.
This was the first big mama of the crossovers, if I do say so myself. Like, this event was basically a Justice League TV special. You got Green Arrow, you got the Flash, you got Supergirl, you got the Legends of Tomorrow against an alien invasion? Dude, sick. I was always seriously impressed that they managed to pull any of these big crossovers off. Can you imagine the admin hell to get every actor free to film their scenes for this crossover while filming their regular shows? First highlight of the crossover, Oliver sticking up for Barry. In case you don't remember, Barry reveals to everyone that he time traveled and it affected everyone's lives. Like, Diggle's daughter has been erased and now he has a son. So everyone's like, hey, we don't trust you and we don't want to work with you for now. And then Oliver in front of everyone's like, are you guys insane? I'm not leaving without Barry. Then later, Oliver has one of the best heart-to-hearts in the Arrowverse with Barry and he's like, dude, if I had your powers, of course I'd try to save my parents. I try to fix everything in my life, okay? You're not an asshole for trying something like that. Then we got Arrow and Flash vs. everyone, which was pretty sick. Second highlight, Arrow's 100th episode special. I'm sure anyone who was watching the crossover at the time who wasn't watching Arrow was like, what the fuck is this, bro? I don't give a shit about these characters. But to me, that episode was so emotional, dude. That was definitely one of the top 10 Arrow episodes. Oliver chooses to leave his dream life to return to a world of suffering because guess what? He knows that that's his role in life and that he has to save people.
You can just go back in time and give it another shot.
I'm actually not supposed to do that anymore.
Oh, okay.
Sing!
I'm your super friend.
The Arrowverse musical. It had to be done because Grant Gustin and Melissa Benoist were both on Glee. They're both really great singers, and obviously they had to get another Glee cast member to play the music meister through Darren Criss. I remember when this episode first came out, everyone thought it was so funny that Barry and Kara are just singing and dancing, while in the same week, Arrow's episode was just Oliver getting brutally tortured. The one thing that bothered me was that they didn't make the music meister into an actual criminal who can make people sing and dance like they did in Brave and the Bold. They kind of just took the easy route and were like, yeah, it's all in their heads, you know, none of it's real. Because I think the great thing about Music Meister is that he can turn the scene into a musical, and I think doing this all in the coma or whatever, such a cop-out. Highlight, obviously Barry's solo at the end, legendary song and performance. I could just imagine every girl watching that and being like, if my man doesn't propose to me like that, I don't want it. This was peak Arrowverse, I don't care what anyone says. Crisis on Earth X was basically a full-fledged Justice League movie. This was undoubtedly the best crossover, had the tightest writing, the best villains, and the highest emotional points. Like we're fighting a Nazi Arrowverse. Also, I get that they're Nazis and everything, but I can't lie, their costumes look pretty sick. They also swung straight out of the gate with their Earth X Prometheus identity reveal as well. That was crazy. The whole crossover itself was the highlight. Obviously, the only shitty thing was that Oliver and Felicity kind of just barged in their wedding with Barry and Iris. Is like, come on guys, have your own wedding, show some class. Another shitty thing is that we didn't end up getting Earth X Barry, we just got Tom Cavanaugh Reverse Flash again, which made no sense, but okay. That's probably because of scheduling issues and the fact that we had just seen evil Barry through Savitar in the previous season, so Alright. I just love how from beginning to end it was just a story about good versus evil, and we finally got a crime syndicate-esque kind of thing in live action.
Wait, why did you guys think I wouldn't recognize you?
Well,
Oh, well that's new.
Barry Allen and Oliver Queen switched bodies. Whoa. So after Crisis on Earth X, they had to tone it down a little bit, you know? They can't go big every single time. This was a pretty fun crossover. They introduced Batwoman in Gotham City. Gotham City, which had been mentioned in the Arrowverse for God knows how long at this point. Barry actually looked pretty good in the Arrow suit. I wish I could say the same about Oliver in the Flash suit, but yeah. Highlights, Ruby Rose's Batwoman interacting with the other heroes. Tyler Hoechlin's Superman's black suit. Holy shit, what a sexy ass costume. Also, the whole event, while it was fun, it was just basically building up to the next crossover, which was the biggest crossover of them all, Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Oh, I am so happy that worked.
Rex, what did you do?
This was 100% the biggest crossover they'd ever done. The Arrowverse's Crisis on Infinite Earths event is basically the definition of a crossover, only second place to the Lego movie. So Oliver dies and becomes a Spectre, which is wild, but it makes sense considering the whole vengeance and green clothing thing. I don't know what they were thinking with the anti-monitor design though, because I feel like if they went with the comic book version, it would have been cheaper as well. I think we can all agree that this crossover wasn't as tight-knit as Crisis on Earth X, but you know, it was still a pretty fun crossover, especially with all the cameos. First, we had Kevin Conroy finally debuting as a live-action Bruce Wayne. I know a lot of sweaty nerds who didn't actually watch the crossover were mad about him playing an evil Bruce Wayne, but y'all have to understand that Kevin Conroy would not have taken up this role if he didn't want to, okay? Like, no one was fucking forcing him.
No, I never thought I'd get a chance to do it on camera, because I was getting older and older and older. I was sort of aging out of Batman, you know? But luckily, I aged into old Bruce Wayne.
He clearly thought it was a fun role, and he did a great job, so I need you nerds to just take a step back and go take a shower, okay? Next, we had Tom Welling returning as Smallville's Clark Kent. What can I say, man? He's the GOAT. Even without powers, the guy's a fucking tank and just rocks Lex Luthor. He's a 6'4" barrel-chested dude. I don't think two of me can take him on a fight. This also had nerds going like, actually, Smallville Clark Kent would have never given up his powers because that was the whole point of Smallville. I think he deserves a break, especially since he's been doing this shit since high school. Speaking of Superman, we can't forget the fact that Brandon Routh finally came back as Superman from his time in Superman Returns. This is arguably the greatest live-action Superman suit to be put to the screen. I love how he just towers over everyone too. They took some inspiration from Injustice where Joker kills everyone he loves, but thank God they didn't make him an evil Superman. Apart from the bit where he was mind controlled, that doesn't count. And at the end when they show him flying with the red and yellow emblem, dude, that is some costume design porn. Ezra Miller's appearance, obviously mind-blowing at the time. The balls it takes to connect these shows to these multi-million-dollar movies, Amazing. And also the fact that Ezra Miller Flash got his name, The Flash, from Grant Gustin's Flash, apparently. I mean, obviously one of these franchises ended better than the other, but yeah, it was still cool to see. We also had Lucifer coming in, a very nice surprise to tie in with Constantine. Tom Ellis's Lucifer is just so funny, bro. The way that he can shit still with everyone. I mean, I know they probably weren't in the same location when they filmed that, but still, like, it was a fun cameo. I just love how by the end of this crossover, the Justice League is established, and they just never fought again. There are some crossovers that happened after these, like Flash's Armageddon, which was like I saw that, and I was like, this is alright, I guess.
What the hell?
I was born on...
There was also It's My Party and I'll Die If I Want To, which was the final crossover of the Arrowverse that took place in Flash's final season, and it saw Barry and Oliver reunite for one final time.
You get this?
You kidding? You're a billionaire.
You can't take it with you.
But yeah, man, that's pretty much it. We just finished Superman and Lois, and dude, that's how you do a series finale. Like, that episode almost had me crying. Almost. They just encapsulate the Superman character just so damn well. Like, James Gunn has a high bar to clear for me to be impressed. It's also extremely impressive that they managed to keep the show about family the entire time while making it a Superman show. Man, the last 10 minutes of Superman and Lois, that was so beautiful. It's crazy to me what they managed to achieve with such a mutilated budget. I'll miss the Arrowverse, man. Like, it started during my teenage/childhood years, and now we've gone all the way past high school and uni, and now I'm here doing this. That's crazy, man, but hey, I guess we gotta move on eventually. If you've somehow watched this entire video without watching part 1 first, go check it out. I talk about Arrow and Superman and Lois and Legend of Tomorrow and all that jazz. And yeah, check out my second channel for random vlogs and videos. Check out my letterbox for movies and stuff I've seen and how I rate them. And check out my Instagram too. And I'll see you next week.